Hi, today I'm going to show you how to rewire a toy for switch use. A lot of our kids don't have the kind of pincer movement that they need to squeeze the paw, and so we end up rewiring them so that they can use them with a Jelly Bean switch or a Big Mat switch, whatever you have available. So to start, you're going to need a toy, and make sure you check it that it's working before you do it, because if it's not working and you start trying to wire it, you're going to think it's something that you did wrong. So we know this toy's working. We're also going to need either a knife or a seam ripper to rip out one of the seams to get into the wires. I have a wire stripper here. You can purchase these at a lot of dollar stores, or you can just use the knife. You need some electrical tape, which you can also get at a dollar store. You're going to need a switch to use the toy with. And then you need the cord that we're going to use for wiring it. I picked these up at a dollar store. It's not a Dollarama, it's more like the Dollar or More stores. Or you can go into an electronics shop. What you're looking for is a stereo microphone extension cord, 3.5 millimeters. And what you're going to notice on the cord itself, when you get it out of the package and undo it, is that it's going to have a male end and a female end. One of these ends we're not going to use at all. The male end we don't need. We need the female end so that we will be able to plug a switch into this toy. So take your wire cutters, cut that end off, get rid of it. Make sure that you keep the female end. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is take your seam ripper or your knife and decide where you want the cord coming from. The switch is here on his back paw, so we don't want to be too far away from his paw, but I like the cord to come out the side or the back a bit more, not out the front of the toy. So I'm going to open up my toy right along the side of his hip here. So take your knife or your seam ripper, get in there, go along the seam, and open them up. Now, the switch is right here. You're going to put your finger in through the stuffing near the switch, and you'll find inside there two wires that are attached to the small switch inside. You're going to pull them out, and as close as you can to the switch that's in there, cut those two wires off. Quite often you set the toy off because you end up completing the circuit. If that happens, you can just put the two ends of the wire together to start or stop it. So now that we have these two ends out, we want to expose the end of the wire for about 3/4 of an inch. So you can do that by using one of these wire strippers. Squeeze it and pull it off, and hopefully you can see here what I've done. I've exposed the wire. On these small wires, quite often, if you have a fingernail, you can do it by squeezing really hard with your fingernail and pulling. I did that one without the wire cutter. So now we have two exposed wires. So really all you've done now, you take this out, and a switch is just something that's going to connect these two wires back together, like that. If you touch them together, it'll make the toy work. So now that we've cut it away from the internal switch, we have to find a way to attach it to the external switch. So once you've cut these two wires and you have the wire exposed, place your toy to the side and get out your female piece that you had. Now at this end, in order to expose the wires, we have to take the black rubber coating off of it. I have the wire strippers that work. You put it in here and cut gently, very gently. You don't want to cut the wires inside and then pull it off. And you'll see there's 3 wires in there. Now, if you don't have a wire cutter to do that, another trick that you can use is take your knife and very gently, where you want to cut it, roll it with your knife so that it's cut all around. This may take 2 or 3 tries. If you end up cutting the wires inside, You might need a pair of pliers to pull this off too. If you end up cutting the wires inside, just cut them off like I did and try again. I didn't quite get through there, so I'll try again with just a little bit more pressure this time to get through. If you're going to be doing many of these, I would advise you to get the wire strippers. They're a lot easier to use, as you can see. But there you go. I've managed to get it off, and I've managed to not cut any of the wires on the inside. If any of these wires end up having a nick in them, just cut them off and try again. You've got a whole long cord here, so you've got more wire to work with. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's the yellow wire that we don't need. This may be something you have to go back to later if it doesn't work. But what I do is there's usually a red, a white, and a yellow. You're going to use the red and white, so just cut that yellow one off of there. You don't need it at all. You're now left with these 2 small wires, and you can do exactly the same thing with your fingernail as we did on the toy. Just pinch it with your fingernail. Oops. This one's not working quite as well. I guess my fingernails aren't sharp enough today. I'll give this one a little bit of help with the knife. Oh, I'll use this. You don't want to wait forever just watching me do that. Okay, now we've got 2 exposed wires here. Bring your toy back. You're going to attach 1 wire from the toy to 1 wire of the switch, the other wire of the toy to the other end. So all I do to attach them is put them together in an X shape and then start to twist them. You really want to make sure you do a good job of this so that they can't be pulled out later. So you're going to twist all those wires together. Then you're going to have this 1 wire here that you've already twisted, and just wrap it around where the join is. And you'll end up with a little ball of wire there. Now once you've got that done, wrapped around, you need to take a piece of your electrical tape. You don't need a very big piece here. If you get it too big, it's hard to use. Okay, so here's my electrical tape. I'll get my little knife. I'm going to cut off about an inch and a quarter here. I'm going to take that piece of tape and wrap it around that joint and make sure that it's sealed. If this joint ends up touching the other joint, it will spontaneously turn the toy on, and you don't want that. So there's one of our connections made. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so get a good look at that. Now what we're going to do is take the other wire from the toy and attach it to the other wire of your switch. Same way, cross them in an X. Get them joined together. Once they're joined together, wrap them around itself here where the join is. Okay. We're going to need another piece of electrical tape. Same size, about an inch and a quarter. And we're going to wrap this joint now. So now basically what you've done is you've attached the toy to the female plug. And to complete the circuit now, you need an external switch. So now you're going to bring in your Jelly Bean or whatever switch you're using and plug it in. So the first time you plug it in, it will just turn the toy on automatically because it makes a connection. Now it's waiting for you to turn it on. So you hit the switch, make sure your wiring is worked. If your toy isn't working, you can check several things. Make sure the batteries are okay. Make sure the toy itself, underneath here, is turned on. and make sure your connections are good. You may have to just cut those connections and start again, but it'll only take you a couple of minutes. So this toy is working. We're going to undo the switch for now. And now we need to tuck everything back into the toy. So what I do is near the end where your join is, I put a knot in the wire. And the reason that I do this is sometimes the kids are pretty hard on these toys and they pull the wire right out. This way, you've got something to sew inside of the dog that will help hold him. So what you're going to do is shove all your wires back into where you open the seam up. Push in all your stuffing and your knot. Make sure the knot is inside. And then you're going to sew this seam up. Once this seam is completely sewn up, you're done. Your toy is ready to give to a child. Get the switch out, plug it in, give it to the child, and have fun.